This is followed by a fun chase through the streets in this funky little motorized rickshaw. It's a good chase filled with cheap, rather tacky moments, such as VJ using a tennis racket to hit back, which results in tennis noises and gawkers on the streets looking back and forth nonsensically, like it's a fucking tennis match. This is one of those groan-inducing things, like the damn double-taking pigeon in Moonraker. It's brief, at least. The whole scene is punctuated by bad humor, which is lame. Moonraker was too childish, and For Your Eyes Only was too serious. Octopussy tries for a frothy, lighthearted fun that it sometimes pushes too hard to achieve. It results in some silly, wonderfully 80s racist moments, similar to those later seen in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You know, like the fat guy who eats baby snakes. So Bond deals with walking on coals and beds and nails and sword swallowers. You know, stuff you'd see in a fucking cartoon about India. Still, it's a different sort of car chase with good locations, and it's something that's not in a Bond film, and despite the tagginess, it still has a sense of fun. All of it works overall because Octopussy makes it a point to do shit not familiar in Bond films. In Never Say Never Again, Bim briefs Bond on the sitch, and Largo returns to his yacht called the Flying Saucer, which is a translation of Disco Volante, which is cool. And one of the few changes I kind of like the plot from Thunderball here is that Largo's girl, Domino, actually is in love with him, instead of just being like a kept prisoner sex slave or whatever it was. I don't remember. Domino is played by Kim Basinger, and if nothing else, she's more interesting of an actress than the one in the original Thunderball. In Octopussy at Q's lab, there's more casual, silly Indian shit and some just straight up childishness, along with one of Bond's greatest gadgets, the pin that shoots acid and doubles as a listening device. I fucking love that thing. Never Say Never Again also, oddly enough, has a pin as its primary gadget Bond receives. His pin is a miniature missile launcher that also has a nice picture of the Union Jack on it. It also writes, I think. So, you know, Q here is a little fellow who complains about his budget being cut, and it's not the Q you love, but it's not necessarily terrible either. One of the film's better moments so far, mainly because it gives Bond the only real contribution that this film has to the Bond world, a laser watch. After that, it's off to the Bahamas, you know, to finish out the rest of the plot to Thunderball. In Octopussy, Bond beds Magda. She drops another hint of something about Octopussy before disappearing with the Fabergé egg, which was part of Bond's plan since the egg has a homing device. See, that's smart. Bond doesn't plan on Gobinda laying him out, though. In Never Say Never Again, Bond is in the Bahamas, and instead of hanging with someone cool like VJ, he's stuck interacting with fucking Mr. Bean himself, Rowan Atkinson. And he's some dork from the British Embassy. He gives some exposition about Largo, but he's mainly there to be insufferable, which he is. Bond eventually runs into Fatima, and she sets about toying with Bond. And that's fine, because in general, Barbara Carrera is quite enjoyable in the role. Bond and Fatima have sexual relations. And I think it's the first time we actually see Bond and any chick in action of those relations during the film, like on screen they're having the fuckings. Like usually it's a classy pan away or simply a scene before or after the relations. So that's new, cool. I guess it would be cooler if it wasn't for the worst soundtrack ever made. So into the water Bond and Fatima go, and she puts this little homing thingy on him, and mother shit, no! Look out, Bond! It's radio controlled sharks! Oh no, they're ambling slowly in your general direction, kinda meandering sleepily. Oh, the threat! Okay, alright. Radio control shark should be cool, and it's inventive, but damn it, I laughed out loud the first time I saw this. These sharks are just so subdued, and the whole scene is unintentionally hilarious in a manner I can't show in stills from the movie. I need to invest in better software. Yeah. Anyway. Back in Octopussy, Kamal rides on this boat of scantily clad hot chicks, and we finally get some sort of glimpse of Octopussy, who remains a mysterious character with some sort of involvement with the villains. She's actually set up like the head villain, with her face not being revealed, similarly to Dr. No or Blofeld, so, you know, intrigue. Bond wakes imprisoned at Kamal's, and the movie shows that his homing device in the egg can be tracked by his wristwatch, but the watch seems to be constantly beeping in the most annoying manner, and how that's covert, I'll never know. There's a standard sort of dinner with the villain scene, followed by Bond escaping using his cool pin. General Orlov shows up, and the plot starts coming together. Bond further uses his cool pin as like a listening device, and we learn that Kamal is making the eggs, as well as copies of other Russian treasures. And in this sense, there's one of the questions, but raises more. See, it keeps the plot interesting. Bond escapes and ends up in this mad chase through the jungle with elephants and a tiger in it. And again, it's very tacky fun. It's different, and that's what makes it work. And it's really only terribly marred by Bond swinging through the air with the Tarzan yelp added in for humor. Even with that awful moment, though, the whole sequence is so over the top and different and loaded with shit, it succeeds. In Never Say Never Again, Bond is fucking around in Nassau, and with no real interest, it seems, in solving the problem at hand. There's more sex, more fucking around with Fatima, more stupid shit with Mr. Bean. At least Bernie Casey shows up as Felix Leiter, and that's nice, because I like him. He was on Deep Space Nine. So Bond follows Domino, since she's Patashi's brother, and that leads to my favorite moment in this whole movie. That's when Domino goes ashore and she's walking along and kind of gives this tree a look, and after she passes, Bond steps out from behind the tree, and that's it. It's just the way it's shot. It looks like Bond is just plastering himself against this tree, like he's hiding behind it, like in plain sight, and Domino gives him a funny look, like he's a stupid man, and he tries to appear afterwards to the camera all suave and cool, and I don't know why. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Like, pause-worthy, had to laugh, hilarious. Bond sets about making friends with Domino, and he seems kind of like a creepy, leering old man, and he pretends to be a masseuse so he can creepily sneak peeks at her nakedness, and it's uncomfortable looking. Is this why Sean Connery returned? In Octopussy, Bond escapes back to Q's and heads off to investigate Octopussy's island of beautiful women. He does so in his wonderfully silly crocodile boat. He finally meets Octopussy, and she's played by Maud Adams, which was previously in Roger Moore, Man with the Golden Gun. You gotta mention that, because that's what it was. She played Bond Girl twice. That's so cool. I don't know why I'm talking like that. Octopussy uses shit from the original Octopussy short story. They cobbled together, and they made a backstory for her, and I like Octopussy's introduction. It plays out in an unexpected manner. Octopussy is not a villain, and her backstory is told to make you think she wants revenge on Bond for tracking down her father, but she simply wants to thank Bond for giving her father an honorable end. Kamal shows up to complicate things, and Octopussy is an odd sort of character in the Bond canon. She's a smuggler. She's not exactly a good guy, but she exists in the gray area between Bond and Kamal. Kamal hires some riffraff to kill Bond on the island, which gives us another memorable bad guy, this dude with the yo-yo saw. We learn that Octopussy not only smuggles, but travels around under the guise of some sort of sisterhood of the traveling octopus cult. She also has diversified into shipping hotels, carnivals, and circuses to officially tie the plot to the clown shit at the beginning of the film. Bond and Octopussy hook up, which is really sudden, and she just sort of yells at him and then storms off, and then they're on the bed getting down to it. This is done with rather schmaltzy music to class the whole thing up, but it's followed immediately by VJ being murdered by Yo-Yo Blade, and it's a suddenly dark moment in an otherwise breezy movie. Even with some of the bad humor, VJ's death leaves the worst taste in your mouth. The ruffians attack Bond in a fun fight, mainly made fun by Yo-Yo Blade. The fight ends rather conveniently with Bond falling with the baddie out a window, only to have a crocodile attack so Bond can escape in his croc boat, like he intentionally pretended to have it attack him to escape. It's kind of stupid. Q tells Bond that VJ was alive when he found him, which means VJ died a slow, agonizing death, because it must have taken those guys a while to get over to the island. That makes it even worse. In Never Say Never Again, Bond is heading to Largo's charity party, so Connery can have a run with Largo in the Bond tradition displayed almost identically with Kamal Khan and Roger Moore playing backgammon. Not to be outdone by Octopussy's, well, pussy-ass game of backgammon, Never Say Never Again opts for video games. Now the game room is quite nice, and I like the setup. It's a standard Bond location at a casino, and then it reveals sort of this like new modernization, and eventually we get down to the Bond villain showdown, and it's done with like a hologram game. Now, let me first say, Largo is a girly, non-threatening little pussy. You want a Bond villain to seem threatening. Hell, any villain in a film should seem threatening. He doesn't have to be an outright sadistic or evil man, but display some kind of cunning to make it so that he's like a threat. Largo has spent an hour and 10 minutes doing nothing. Comparatively, Kamal Khan and Octopussy doesn't do much in that time, but Octopussy's plot, it moves forward in some manner. Never Say Never Again suffers from what the crippled Thunderball did. It's just meandering until we get to the finale with the nukes. We don't know about the nukes in Octopussy yet. Both Largo and Kamal Khan are masterminds of a plan involving nuclear disaster, but Kamal is part of an ensemble threat with Octopussy and General Orlov. Largo is really the film's key villain, with Blofeld just sort of popping up to have Blofeld in the film. Only Fatima Blush has provided any sort of real villainy for the whole length of the movie. So Largo and Bond have this little match here with nothing at stake, where Kamal Khan and Bond's little backgammon game was there to move part of the plot forward. The video game scene is just an excuse for effects. Largo looks like an absolute dipshit as he sits there grinning, and the game starts up, and it's really boring. The game is explained at the start, but it's hard to grasp other than numbers are going up. The game shocks the person that loses, but it's a stupid fucking video game. The music and Domino's expression imply that this is all very tense, but it's not. The movie spends an absurd amount of time on the stupid game, and Bond eventually wins like $260,000, but trades it all for one dance with Domino. Which I liked in theory, since it's very Bond-like. But an excessive dance was the last fucking thing needed after a protracted video game battle. Fatima comments how well they move together, but no they don't. It's stiff and lifeless. Bond's assistant is killed by Fatima, and as the awful soundtrack blares, a terrible little chase finally pops up. It leads to Bond finally getting to use his cool motorcycle in a surprisingly muted chase sequence. And it's cool that the motorcycle is like a rocket motorcycle, but the terrible jazzy soundtrack is distracting, and there's not a damn thing to make it stand out in any manner that makes it better than any other Bond chase. Octopussy had fucking rickshaws, elephants, it had change. The car chase here is no better than the brief run around Bangkok and the man with the golden gun, only without the badass stun in the end. And Never Say Never Again actually ends this chase in like the stupidest fucking way ever. Bond finally catches Fatima, only to have her get the upper hand. She pulls her gun, makes him throw his, then she crazily demands that Bond fucking write her a note on a piece of paper that she was the greatest premarital relations he has ever had in the history of time. She demands this like a crazy person. Now, Fatima has been presented as the film's only decent threat, and she's been violent and a little more than happy to kill. But this moment, where she just hands him a newspaper she found so he can sign it, leads to one of the worst moments in anything ever. I fucking hate this movie because of this one scene. If this movie was a small child, like a precocious, cute 4-year-old named Never Say Never Again, I'd smack that little kid in the face because of this fucking scene. If the film had previously set up like that this is Fatima's thing, that she makes all men she fucks and kills sign her yearbook, maybe. But the way it's put forward, it's just a stupid way to sledgehammer into the script a reason for Bond to use his rocket pen. It would be like Dr. Kananga in Live and Let Die if he was like, Mr. Bond, I need to know what time it is. Can you put your chainsaw watch against my face so I can see what time it is? Or if Drax demanded to kiss Bond's hand suddenly before he killed him and he fired the wrist gun into his throat. I can't believe that anyone thought that this was a good idea for a scene. Nor can I believe that there's more contempt for Bond dressed as a clown in Octopussy than this fucking scene. At least the clown get-up made sense. Back in the real Bond film, Bond heads into East Germany. A circus, really, now that I think about it, is an excellent way to smuggle. We also get some wonderful plot complexities with Octopussy and General Orlov and Kamal Khan. They're all at the circus, as is Magda, who works for Octopussy, not Kamal, and the knife-throwing twins are there, and they work for Kamal, not Octopussy. There's a lot to juggle, and the film handles it. Everything ties together here, where we learn Kamal has made fakes of the jewelry for General Orlov. But Kamal and Orlov are using Octopussy's smuggling circus as a way to actually smuggle in a nuclear bomb at their next stop at an American Air Force base. Orlov is hoping to cause an accident, so Europe demands nuclear disarmament. If the USSR won't attack as Orlov wants, then at least he can weaken their hand. It's a pretty cool plot, actually. Bond goes on a mad chase to stop the train from getting across the West German border. This again is a mix of badass and the terminally silly. Bond's driving his car on the train tracks, and that's awesome. Bond dons a gorilla suit to hide. That's lame. Train top fight with swords are awesome. Riding with German characters, lame. But by and large, the chase is great. It's all action, one inventive sequence after another. It, of course, culminates in one of the most bizarre and hated moments in all of Bonddom. The moment that often cements Octopussy at the bottom of any Bond fan's ranking. Bond hiding in the circus by dressing like a clown. I'm not going to defend this. Having James Bond dress as a clown is simply not badass. And Bond is supposed to be badass. But to be honest, my biggest complaint with the clown getup is that there's no fucking way he could have gotten into that costume in like 45 seconds. The actual outfit technically makes sense to what is going on. It seems like the best outfit to slip into the airbase security. There's a wonderfully paced, totally warped build-up as Bond frantically tries to convince Octopussy and the American general there's a bomb in the cannon, and chaos ensues as children laugh at the antics, and Bond desperately tries to disarm it, and he does so, and it's like the last possible moment you could disarm a bomb in any movie ever. Despite the clown getup, it's a very good, very well conjured chase. This whole frantic tracking down of the nuke, and it all builds up like it's the grand finale, but holy crap, it's not.